Okie doke. So, let's see, how should I start this? The topic of today is what I call part 2 of website construction, which is something we started back when I introduced PHP includes, and just kind of set the stage there. Is that, you know, the idea of building websites and having common elements on lots of web pages, like potentially hundreds or thousands of web pages, you know, where they all have the same header, the same footer, the same navigation element. You know, it gets to be a website construction nightmare because we have to replicate all that code on all those pages. Long story short, you know, some people came up with the idea of using this idea of includes to kind of snatch out some of the common elements and put them in separate files, so it'd be easier to maintain all this stuff. Problem is, we introduced problems when we did that. For instance, the classic thing was with the navigation element, we wanted to customize our navigation bars to show us where, you know, show the user what page they're on. And the way we do that, or one way to do that, is to drop in a little class on the current page element, like isCurrent or whatever you want to call it, and say this is the current page, and then style that in a different way, and that's the way that would work. But when you match that together with PHP includes, that breaks, along with other things that we'll talk about today, things that won't work because we're doing this whole PHP include thing. So there are solutions, and that's what I'm going to take you through today. And actually, this part is something that I usually do in my CSC 174 course, Advanced Front-End Web Development. But over time, with feedback from students, a lot of people in that course want to do more things. So, and also people in this course have also given me feedback, like, we can do more stuff, let's do more stuff. So I'm trying to cram more stuff into all courses. So even though this topic I usually save for the advanced course, I'm moving it from that course to you guys. With that in mind, keep in mind that this is all kind of a fresh presentation. I don't have slides for you today. All I'm going to do are demos, show you how to do more advanced website construction techniques. So it'll be a lot of code demos, explanations, and keep in mind is now that I'm moving that this part to this course, I'm also rewriting some of the requirements, like for the next lab where you're going to have to do this, and also for project 3, which I'm going to talk about first. We'll also have this requirement of the things that I'm going to cover for you, today in demos. With that in mind, and keeping in mind that it's not a very organized thing, I need to refine this over the next couple semesters. So yeah, I've got a camera on myself here. See how terrible this presentation is for you guys, and I'll be making improvements over the next couple semesters. But in the meantime, your patience is much appreciated as I go through this stuff. So I'm going to get to that stuff, but first let me start with Project 3, which is, by the way, it's not been published yet. I'm still tweaking it, obviously, because I just explained, how, it's kind of a moving target right now. So let's see. Actually, let me put this up in front of you, which is a Word version of the instruction sheets, obviously from last semester. So this is not your due date, okay? Or else, you're in trouble. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go through the instructions. I'm not going to read them all to you. Like I said, I'm still refining them. I'll try to get them published either tonight, and by tonight I mean tomorrow, and by tomorrow I mean over the weekend. But it'll be out there soon. I'll let you guys know when it's there. But just so you know what's coming, let me kind of take you through it. And actually, I think the best place to start would actually be, let me show you some examples. Which I've shown you some of these examples as we've been going through here. In fact, actually, let me go back. I think I showed you, this one is a project 2, and had, some of these nice effects to it, like the idea of, taking the unordered list and putting it in boxes and making them, horizontal using flex. this was all someone's project 2 from a previous semester. And then what you do, what you guys will do, is take your project 2, and here's the fun part, merge it together with other students' project 1s, where basically you take a couple other students' project 1 files, along with your project 2, you sprinkle your CSS on their HTML, and then add some other things like a common header, common footer, build a navigation element to basically build a little website based on your project 2 and other people's project 1s. So that's how this ends up, is that it goes from this. This is a project 3. So basically, here's the project 2 content from this student. And what they did there is they built the navigation element. And so this is actually comes from someone else, this content here, but obviously using one CSS to rule them all, they all kind of fall into line there. Let's see, there's a couple other things here. Like then you also have to add a home page on top of these, and on it there needs to be a JavaScript powered plugin and some other, kind of what we call wells, which I'll talk about and are also explained in the instructions. See, let me try another one. Let's see. Actually, here, this will be interesting. So here is, this is someone else, like I said, someone else's page, someone else's project 1 in this person's project 3, and here is someone else's project 3 that also has the same content. I think it's the same content, but obviously someone else's CSS. So as you can see there, same content, totally different look and feel to it. Again, just the difference being it's the other person's original CSS used on someone else's HTML. That, and then a different style of home page, kind of the same thing with some kind of slider is usually the way to go there. And the wells, and let's see if there's anything else interesting. Here's another one, again the same content, Steve Jobs with this style. Actually, I remember I showed you this as a project 2, which had the the hanging H2s, that was a nice little trick there. And here too is other people's content using someone else's CSS. Before I get into the instructions, I got to say, the part that will drive you crazy about this stuff is that you will realize how crappy everyone else's code is when you do this. You are basically going to take or steal someone else's project 1s, and you will, when you first stitch it all together, stitching the CSS together is actually a piece of cake. You just go into their HTML, add a link to your CSS, after you copy all the files. You add a link to your CSS, and then you say, okay, we're cooking, it's going pretty quick, nice, let's take a look. You open it up, and it looks like shit because they're H1s and H2s and have different things around them, and maybe they made mistakes, or maybe you made mistakes, or whatever, and it all comes out in the wash when you try to merge all this stuff. And here's the thing, and I can't stress this enough, it is your job to fix it so it looks right. So if you inherit really bad HTML, yeah, you have to make some changes to either yours, you'll have to make some tweaks to your CSS, and if necessary, yeah, rearrange other people's HTML just to make it work. It is your responsibility to do, to fix their stuff. And yeah, like I said, that's the reality of it. And it's a little bit of a real world kind of taste for you guys, because this is what we in the industry deal with all the time. Is we're supposed to be getting professional code from other people, and then we look at it, it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. It's like, well, whose job is it to fix it? It's yours. So let's get into some of the details. Let's see. First of all, a warning. Yeah, you know how things have been pretty flexible with due dates and also regrades. I don't know if you remember this from the beginning, but I hope I put your expectations, on the same level, which is that this is a favor of letting you be a little flexible in terms of like when things are due and being able to get things regraded. That was all a gift, you're welcome, that kind of goes away at this point in the semester, not only with Project 3, but the labs as well. Well, quite frankly, it's the TAs and all of us, and me, we're all getting busy at the end of the semester. Things start to pile up, and so keeping in mind is that we are only obligated to grade all of your assignments one time and only if it was turned in before or on the due date. So to the degree we can, still go above and beyond for you guys, we will, but just keep in mind that kind of goes away, pretty much now as people start to get, a little tense about the end of the semester. So even more so with Project 3, because it is at the end of the semester, you cannot count on any, resubmissions, after you lose a few points for something, and if you get any feedback at all, you may say it's like, oh, I can fix that. You fix it and you resubmit it, it'll probably never get regraded, just because it's at the end of the semester. And also the whole thing about the due date. The due date is the due date. That's about it. So just keep that in mind. Anywho, first part of the instructions here, pretty much, like I said, is you take other people's Project 1s, and I'll show you how to do that, and then just kind of merge it together. That's the concept here. Some of the thing here, oh yeah, I said, do not change the HTML by adding content or moving around content much. And some people don't interpret that right. I do mean, yes, you will need to. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of the situation. The goal is to not change your HTML and the other people's HTML, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to tweak it a little bit. But the idea is try to leave it the same. Same thing for the CSS. Don't start over from scratch. You start with your Project 2 CSS and kind of build on it only as necessary. And at the end of the day, yeah, you'll have 5 pages. It's basically your original Project 2 and its CSS, 3 other students' Project 1s, and then on top of that, the new home page, the new index.html. Let's see, obviously things have to validate within reason. I don't know if did I go into detail about, I don't know if I mentioned about the plugins when we're talking about JavaScript plugins. A lot of them cause crazy amount of validation errors. And welcome to the industry. That's just the way it is, and that's bad. But the thing is, you guys, or at least in this course, are not tasked with the responsibility of fixing errors that are caused by plugins and some other excusable errors. And so there may be, especially with Project 3, there may be a lot of errors in your validation. Some of them you have to fix, with ones that are your fault you have to fix. The other students' HTML, if they have validation errors, yes, you have to fix those too. But if there's like plugins and other things that are causing validation errors, check with your TA or check with me, and some of them are what we call, just excusable. So just keep that in mind, is that your mileage may vary. Okay, some of the things in the instructions we haven't covered yet. So now, by the way, don't wait until we cover everything before you start. Just keep in mind is that you're going to have to go back and deal with some of these requirements that you can't do yet because we haven't covered. We haven't talked about things like making your website mobile friendly. So it looks right on a smartphone or a tablet or a desktop browser. That's something we're going to cover I think next week. Next week. And then also search engine optimization. Again, that's another topic. We haven't talked about it yet, but there's a couple things that you have to do there which you won't know about till we get there. And then I go on to, there's all these new things that you have to add to all the HTML pages. Like I said, in addition to adding the content from all these other sources, you have to build a new header that's going to basically be, a header on every single page, and a new footer, and obviously a new navigation element. So some of the things that, anyway, you have to build all those things. There's other requirements. I want you to use CSS grid layout. for all the pages, which also gets a little wonky because, again, if someone else was using a totally different layout and now you're trying to apply your layout to their pages, things get a little crazy, and that's where you might need to change some stuff. Let's see, little things like changing the title tags and stuff like that in a certain way. Oh, and by the way, on this thing, there's a particular format to the title tag that I want you to use. And it's not just because I'm a nitpicky son of a bitch. It's actually, there's a reason that things have to be in this way, and it has to do with search engine optimization. Words have to be put in a certain order. And yeah, we'll talk about that later, actually at the end of the semester. That's our last topic. So anyway, so some of this stuff, like the way the title tags have to be there actually has a reason why they have to be there in a certain way. Talks about the banner. Keeping in mind, I'm using the term banner kind of loosely. It's the stuff up at the top. Typically, it's the stuff inside the header tag. And what I usually want, and what CSC 170 students usually do, is they pick out a logo, or it's not actually, I think it's not mandatory that you actually have an image that represents like, a brand or something like that. Because obviously I'm not grading, your marketing prowess, but that's typical, so you might want to do that. Plus some large text and a subtitle. That's all the typical stuff you usually see on, general websites. So I want you guys to do that too and stick it in this top area called the banner. Like something like this, with an integrated logo, whatever. There's some requirements there. The main menu, the navigation element, yes, has the requirements, such as you have to have some indicator to tell the user what page they're looking at. So, this is kind of the stuff that we covered before. Keeping in mind that where I'm going with this stuff is that there's going to be another requirement saying that you have to use PHP includes, and one of the includes have to be from the navigation element, which of course breaks that feature. So today I'm going to show you how to fix it using JavaScript. We'll get there in a few minutes. So there's that. Then the footer has some basic requirements. Oops, going to have to fix that. And the new home page. Oh yeah, and then the new home page, as you saw in my examples, there's got to be some JavaScript powered something. And I haven't made it a requirement that you don't use the plugin that you used in what is it, Lab 15, right? The super simple slider, I think it was. I kind of don't want you to use that. Go out into the World Wide Web, and Google jQuery slideshow or jQuery gallery or something. Find something else and learn how to use it. They're usually pretty easy, and install it on your Project 3. I don't know, maybe I should make it a requirement that you don't use super simple slider, but I'm too good of a guy. Now you can use it, whatever. It'd be more fun if you don't. So there's that, and then, in addition to the, in addition to the jQuery-powered slideshow or something, using whatever you want, then you have to have, where am I describes the homepage content? What's generically called wells in the design industry. In other words, just because it's an index page, I actually want you to use it as an index for the other 4 pages. So the content on the homepage should be like an excerpt. Actually, you just had it down here. Things that kind of look like this is on the home page. There'll be like a title, which will be like an H2 or something like that. An excerpt of some like starts of a paragraph from one of the other pages, and then a link to actually go to the other page, and maybe just extract and resize and refit one of the images from one of those sub pages, and this would be called a well. And then you do that 4 times, 1 for each of the sub pages, and you put that on your home page. So that's the idea there. And then yes, PHP includes. So at a bare minimum, I say you got to factor out the nav element, and you should also factor out other things as appropriate. Okay, that's pretty much the the bulk of the requirement, actually that's all the requirements there, that's in that first part. Then by popular demand, I guess, over the past couple semesters, I started including what I call a suggested workflow, because I'm dumping all these requirements. So like, this is what your project 3 has to look like when you get done with it. And you can understand all the requirements. But as you actually sit down and start to work on project 3, what a lot of people have is basically, I guess I call it writer's block or coder's block, where you don't know where to start, because there's so many things that you have to, so many requirements. So I wrote this up, and hopefully this will help. Is basically how to get there. Preparing your project 2 file, basically, make a copy of it, call it project 3, that part's familiar. And things we haven't covered yet, like registering your website with Google Analytics, that's part of the search engine optimization stuff that we'll get to. And then there's this, actually I want to demo this, is how do you get other people's project 1s? And well, one way is ask them, is, hey, email me. All you need is their one HTML file and their image files, right? And then you kind of reconstruct it, in your own file system, keeping in mind that originally not all those files will be called index.html. You're going to need to rename those files to, something that makes sense, like these kind of file names. And then you start, kind of integrating. And then there's a lot more instructions here about like, then do this, then do that, then, then save everything, upload it, and Bob's your uncle. But let me back up to this whole thing about getting the other project 1 files. So there's a trick to it. In the industry, we call it scraping. We scrape web pages off the web like this. Actually, let's see. So you would go to, what are we, www.urcsc170.org, which of course just takes you, because I have an index file here, which actually I should remove. Yeah, well, actually I'll come back to this in a second. All you need is someone's username that they're using for their account on the web server. And by the way, like, hopefully this isn't going to be a surprise, but yes, you can see everyone else's files. That's, the nature of the web. Of course, then we have, my fire and brimstone speech of like, yeah, you can see other people's files, but, you can use them for inspiration, but don't copy them, for God's sake, or else that's plagiarism. Still, though, they're all out there, and all you need is someone's username. Let's see. What did I have? Oh, I picked someone out. Actually, someone who's not here today. Ha 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 ha. KT Thorn 4. KT Thorn 4. Is that it? Nope. What did I just look at? Oh, Thorn T. Ah. Yes, okay. So, oh my God, I can see someone else's files. So yeah, all you need is someone's username, and so that's even easier than asking for people to email you or send you, their files. And then once you're in there, you can go to their project 1. In fact, yeah, you can look at their project 2, whatever. But you need their project 1. Or quite honestly, maybe it would behoove you to get their project 2, but just the HTML, because maybe they made fixes or they improved their project 1 and project 2. So in any case, this is how you do it. How to scrape someone else's web page is pretty straightforward. Let me actually just do it on the fly here. I'm going to create a new text document, call it, vint-surf.html. Oops. Let me do it right without the txt. Okay, and open it up in Sublime. Oh, duh. Yeah, let me just change the default settings here. Layout single. Okay. So you kind of already know how to do this. This will, should make sense as I do this. Is that so? There it is. All you need to do is right mouse click, do View Page Source or something like that. Select all, copy, paste. Ta-da! Save. Now there's that, and then there's also the image files, which is also a piece of cake. As you know, I told everyone to do their file structure exactly the same way. So it's no mystery. All you have to do is create a folder called Images. And I'll do that right here on the desktop here. Images. And then back here on their front, we scrape the images. And nowadays, it's a piece of cake. All you have to do is drag. Oops. Let's see. Yeah. God damn it. Hate this, the way they configured these PCs here. There we go. Drag, drop. Get the other one. Drag, drop. If there's, are there any other ones? Oh, yep. There's another one. And the thing is, it comes down with all the right file names. So if it worked on their website, it'll work on yours. So here, I got the local file here. I got the images. I double click here. It's all local. Come on. There it is. I have, scraped someone else's project one. So, yeah, so the hard part is just getting other people's usernames so you can get there. Actually, I'm just thinking about that. Screw that. Because who wants to talk to everyone? Like no one wants to talk to other people. Okay, so like I said, I've got an index.html file in the root directory of our class web server. And that's keeping you from being able to peruse everyone's files, which of course is very tempting, in this course, especially, when it comes down to plagiarism. But at this point in the semester, I'll just change the file name of index.html, and you remember what that does. That means there will be no index. So over here, when you go to urcsc spelled urcsc170.org, you see the naked listing. Ta-da! There's everyone's stuff. Enjoy. Don't steal shit. But be inspired. And also scrape people's project ones. All right, any questions on that? Because like I said, I don't have any presentation slides on it. It's a demo. The poor people who aren't here, will basically be lost without without this information. So I'm glad you're here. But let me know, is any questions on that or any difficulty with scraping, because obviously that's going to be a key part for your Project 3. Good to go? Okie doke. So let's see, I think that's enough for Project 3. Like I said, I'll get the instructions all nailed down and published, and I'll send out an announcement in Slack to let you know that it's there. And like I said, don't wait too long to start on it, because there's so many little itty bitties, there's a lot of requirements. And so you need to be hacking away at it for the next, what do we got left? 3 weeks? So yeah, don't wait till Monday night on April 30th or whatever it is, because, shit won't turn out well. And there will be no redos. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a couple tricks using PHP and JavaScript, which is why I had to wait till this time to actually show you how to fix the current page highlighter. And let me preface by saying there's actually a lot of different ways to do this. There's a lot of solutions. In fact, you can Google current page websites, current page highlighter solutions, or something like that. And there'll be a lot of JavaScript solutions. There'll be PHP solutions. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. What I'm going to do is show you a JavaScript one, and I'm also going to provide the JavaScript file that you can use as a plugin on your Project 3. And actually, there'll be, like I said, there'll be a lab assignment on this coming up. Well, let me show you what I'm talking about here. So let's see, I'll start with this stuff. Actually, let me copy some files over. And I'll start right here. Actually, I don't even think I need the other. Does that work? Whatever. Okay, it's both on both sides. All right, so I've got this little very clean, plain vanilla demo website. So we can just focus on this one feature. Let's see, let me zoom in a little bit here. So you see what's going on here. It's like there's basically no CSS. There's three very simple web pages here. Let me see if I can zoom in the same way on all three pages. There we go. So as I go from page to page on these HTML tables, there's a little highlighter there. And of course, you know how that's concocted. Let me open up these in Sublime. Is, oh, come on. Is this. Actually, two things. On the appropriate page, oops, is that big enough? On the appropriate page, in the line item of the menu, you put a class, call it whatever you want, like is current, as you know, is the current page. And as you go from page to page, you know, you just move that around. And wherever that is, this CSS, which by the way, remember, should be in an external CSS file, will activate and on just that, just wherever it is. So very simple solution and cool for days, except jumping ahead to the PHP stuff is that when we turn this into PHP files and clip out that this navigation element, it's going to be the exact same navigation element on all, in this case, all three pages. So how do we get that in-class class, is current class put on the navigation elements? And the answer is, well, there's a lot of solutions, but let me show you a JavaScript solution. So what I'm going to do is use this, is a little bit of JavaScript code in a separate file. Like I said, I'll make this available to you. Actually, what I'll do is I'll make a commented up version of this file. I think I have that somewhere. Actually, do I have it? Wherever. Yes, okay, I just wanted to make sure I still had it. Here's the same version. It's just a lot more stuff in there. There's all these comments. And this actually shows you, when you get it, to remind you how do you make this work, is it has instructions. Like, first of all, this is a jQuery-powered JavaScript plugin. So the first thing you're going to have to do is install jQuery. You should use a CDN because it's easier. This is not a production CDN, but it's good enough for our purposes. So you can literally just take this line of code, stick this into your HTML in the right place, and then below it, you would install this file, which is this, this plugin, which I call menu-highlighter.js. Will go right under the jQuery installation. And then the other instruction here is that over in your CSS, in your external CSS file, you need to create a class like that. And don't do this. I mean, this is just a demo here. You know, background color black, color white. That's, it's just very heavy-handed. You should do styles that actually make sense and make the styles that fit with your design, of course. So not necessarily that. But once you do it, like I said, there's these instructions. I've hacked them up with actually a lot of text. But actually, let me do this version of it here because it's obviously a lot cleaner and probably easier for me to describe. It's just this short snippet of code. All of this is just plain JavaScript, not even jQuery. This part down here is nice and tidy because it actually uses jQuery. And quite simply, it's just a matter of this part up here simply gets the file name. It's like wherever this JavaScript file runs, those top 3 lines of code will get its own file name. So it's always going to be different depending on where it's being run. And that's step 1 in this whole process there. It goes through actually, let me see if I can do a quick demo here. Yeah, okay, actually, let me come back to that. And so what I'm going to do is basically, in effect, hack up this little demo files, which is going to be the same steps as you need to do for both the next lab assignment and also your project 3. So let's see, let me remember where the hell was I working here. Okay, right here. And so this will be separate. So I've got some web pages here. Actually, let me do the whole shoot match here with PHP includes, just so remember where we are. Oh yeah. In case that explodes, I already have a finished version here. So let me just do, let's see, a new folder here. This is in my MAMP for Windows web root, and MAMP is running, so I can demo PHP files on my laptop here. So I'll just call this demo. And in here, this is where I'm going to do the demo. So we got the 3 files. First thing is I'm going to convert everything to PHP files. If you bear with me, it's just a matter of renaming it from HTML to PHP. And copy that. Do that. Yes, I do want to change it. Same thing for the other ones. Ta-da! Okay. And excuse me. Let me create a subfolder. Come on. Called Inc, short for includes. And so for all of, and well, actually, and in here, let me create a file called nav.inc. So this, of course, is something we did a few weeks ago, and hope you remember, because you got to do it again. So for all 3 of these files plus this file, going to clip out the nav element on all of them. Let's see, cut and paste. And in its place, I will put a PHP include statement, PHP include inc slash, what was it, nav.inc, and close the PHP. So I'm going to copy that, and on all 3 pages, get that out. Whoops. Save. Fun stuff. Make sure everything's saved. Make sure this is saved. And of course, the problem here is this cannot be here because this is going to need to be dynamic. Also, by the way, this is classic. This is the typical things I would forget during a demo. PHP. Make sure, because I renamed all the file names to .php. So that's it. Everything should be the same, except nice thing is now that I've got it, the navigation element in an include file, if I ever have to make changes, like add new web pages, I could do it in one place, the include file, and it's a great way to live life. Let's see. Let me go to localhost, go to my demo folder, and voila. Everything's there, everything continues to work, but even though the CSS is there, it doesn't work because the is current class isn't being applied anywhere. So this is the thing that you'll have to do is grab the JavaScript file. Let me clean up here. Let's see. That's the folder I want. So here I'm going to create a folder called JS for JavaScript. And like I said, I will provide this file. What do I do with that file? There it is. I'll provide this file. You can download it. And actually, it'll be the version that's all hacked up with lots of comments. Actually, let me change the file name, get rid of the min. There we go. So, so the instructions, let me put that over there. The instructions in the file that you'll get basically will tell you to do this. Open them all up. Oh, come on. there we go. Down here, right above the closing body tag, need a link to script tag linking to the CRN source. Come on. I'm sorry, CDN. Let me make sure I get the CDN right. I'm using the short one. Like I said, this is not a production CDN, but it's good enough for for us. code.jquery.com/jquery.js. Close and script. And then under that, now that the the library is installed, now we can install the plugin, which is script src, and this one's in our local file system, so it's JS menu-highlighter.js. In fact, I'm going to copy that just so I don't screw it up. And for this particular plugin, that's it. Simply get that put together there, installed, and what's going to happen here is the PHP will be assembled on the server, which in this case is my own laptop, without the isCurrent class anywhere, and then after it downloads and runs in the browser, the JavaScript will fire and magically insert the isCurrent class where it needs to be. So let's try it out, and then I'll explain briefly how it works. Please work. There we go. It worked on the home page, but not the other ones. Gotta love a demo. Let's see if I can debug it real quickly. I only installed it on one. How many of you knew that? So you have to install it on all the pages, of course, because it needs to run on all the pages. So the code that I put here at the bottom is working on my index.php file. So I copy it, and down here at the same place, right above the closing body tags, on the other files, you also have to put it. And by the way, not for nothing, let me give you a quick hint there. I just put the same code on 3 pages. What does that sound like it should be? Another PHP include. You should pull this out and create another PHP include called like scripts.inc or something like that, and put it, and PHP includeitize your script tags, because again, there too they repeat on every page, which means it's redundant code, which is something that should be separated out. So there you go. Now here's the magic, or the weird part about this stuff, is that when you look at the source code of this page, there is no isCurrent class on any of them. And yet, there it is. In fact, if you look at the inspector tools, come on, inspect, I hit the wrong thing. There we go. See if I can zoom in on this so you can see it. And let's see, let me inspect that actual thing. Look, there it is. Class isCurrent is actually there dynamically being inserted by the JavaScript, even though in the actual code it doesn't exist. And that's how this thing works. And let me just kind of wrap this up by actually going through the lines of code here. So like I said, these three lines basically get the long URL of whatever page you happen to be on, which is actually, unfortunately, the entire path, like everything from HTTP, blah, 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 all the subdirectories, and then the file name. And then these 2 lines basically strip out everything after everything before the last slash is how this works. And we don't have to get into the detail of why and how it works and like what is last index of and substring and stuff like that. But the result of this stuff is this file is a variable that gets created, which is nothing but the file name of the current file. And then I'll come back and explain this. And then basically we use a little bit of jQuery which basically says go through every anchor tag within the nav element, which, by the way, recognize the syntax there. That's a descendant selector. That's like I was saying before, talking about jQuery. The beauty of jQuery is it leverages what you already know about CSS, like descendant selectors. So there it is, any anchor tag inside of the nav, so not all the anchor tags, just the ones inside of our menu, go through and inspect each and run this function. And the function is basically these two lines. It's an if statement which says, look at this, whichever is the current anchor tag that we're cycling through one at a time. And basically, if you find, well, this index of is kind of a trick to say, does this one, do we have a hit? Is there a match between this file and the current href of the anchor tag we're looking at? As I'm saying this stuff, I'm realizing it's like, what? Okay, it basically does that a comparison of every anchor tag. Is this the same as that? If not, forget it. If this keeps on going through every anchor tag until it finds one where there is a match, and then it says add class, which you can kind of figure out what that means. Add the class is current to that particular anchor tag. And that's how this JavaScript code kind of slips in there. And if you're wondering, it's like, holy shit, I would never have thought of that. It's like, me too, I never thought of this either. This is one of those things we all just get inspired by each other. I found this on the code there. What did I just say? I found this on the web, this code, and that's, I started using it. In fact, on the full version, I think I even put a link to the person where I first stole this simple solution, and you'll see that there when I distribute this file. So there's that on how to fix the broken is current highlighter after you use PHP includes. But there's more to it. There's some more stuff I need to show you, which, by the way, this is the part I'm adding to the requirements for Project 3. There's actually a lot of things that get broke by doing PHP includes, besides the navigation, you are here indicator. The problem there is, there's so much good stuff that we need to clip out. Because there's so much redundant stuff. Like actually, take a look at all this stuff. This whole top part is almost totally identical on every web page. And again, if there's like 1,000 web pages, I don't want to have to replicate this on every single web page, because what if there's a change or something like that? So I want to be able to clip out all of this stuff. But the problem is that the title tag, or this part right here, actually should be different on every web page. The reason, by the way, we'll talk about when we get to search engine optimization, is that indexing service, well, Google loves it when we actually describe the page contents in the title tag. It actually indexes that information, and so Google wants us to actually have unique title tags on every one of our web pages. In other words, the title tag should describe the page, not the website. So, well, that's a problem, because if I clip out this whole section and put it into a PHP include, then it's going to be the same on every single web page. How do we get around that? So actually, there's two ways. One way sucks, don't do it, is take this part, put it into an include, and then make another include with the rest of it, and have another include for before and after the unique part. And yeah, the idea is that these PHP includes are supposed to make life simpler for us, and if we have too many includes, then that's not going to help. So there's a couple things that we can do right here. And what I'm going to do is actually start off by taking actually everything from the H1 to the top. I'll turn that into another include. So if you bear with me for a moment, I'm going to create another inc. I'll call it top hyphen part dot inc. And Copy that over, replace it with an include called top-part.inc. Save that, copy this, do the same thing on all of these pages, which of course, you know, introduces the problem that now they're all identical. So here's the thing. Remember the thing about variables. You can create a variable that temporarily holds a piece of information that you want to use later. And here's the new piece of information is that when you create a variable in PHP and you are also using PHP includes, is that the same variable that you create in one place works in all of the includes. So that's, well, actually, let me demo it. So here's what we're going to do is up here, I just pick one of these files here. As you can see, is that big enough? Actually, let me kind of stretch it out a little bit. So I'm going to do some more PHP. Now I could do another PHP statement above here. Actually, I'm just going to use the same one because why not? And I'm going to spread it out with extra white space just to make it really clear. Actually, this should be enough. So what I'm going to do is create a variable. I'll call it, so by the way, in this language, variables start with a $sign. That's PHP, not JavaScript. So I'll call it current page name. And in quotes, let's see, this is the home page. Actually, I'll just do the home page. Like that. So it's just a literal string, and it's going to be held here in a variable, which I'm going to copy, called current page name. And I'm going to do that on, actually, on all of them, except here's where the difference will be, is that this one is called another page. Save that. This one is called, oops, come on. Did I do it? Ah, God damn it. Fingers work. Engage. There we go. This is called one page. Come on. Like that. So that's all I'm doing right now is that in the PHP world, so in a PHP statement, basically, I'm just creating a unique name and just holding on to it. Now the magic comes in over here is that in this include file, okay, you can also use PHP. So actually, instead of the title tag, I'm going to put a PHP statement here. Here's opening and closing. And in here, I'll use the echo statement. Remember, echo means just put it here, right on the web page. And so what am I going to echo? That, let me make sure I get it exactly right with the $sign. Echo current page name. There. Actually, let me change the highlighting. So, come on. There we go. So you see right there, and you see where we're going with this stuff is that because this is all going to be pulled together when the stuff is compiled on the server, it's going to echo, in other words, stick, the value of that variable right there. In fact, let me copy that, because check this out. I can also do it down here. And even right here in the page itself, well, it's kind of redundant. I'm going a little crazy here. But just to demo, it's like I could use the echo statement in PHP, PHP code anywhere in the HTML because it's just being held there in memory on the server, and I can just keep on inserting it. And it's always going to be different based on the page where I'm using it. So let's see. So there, that goes there. In fact, let me also put it in the same place here. Same page there. So if I did it all right, let me just eyeball everything to make sure I didn't screw up something here. That should do it. Let me close everything. Go back to localhost. refresh. There, and everything changes. Again, this is a little stupid to have it, the H1 and the H2 the same thing, but you get the idea is that on every page it's different, even though I clipped out a big chunk of code where some of it needs to be unique and the rest of it is the same. So I turned it into an include, but I still have some of the unique stuff is still getting inserted. There's other applications for this. Actually, in the interest of time, which I have lots of, but I'm kind of running out of steam, I'll tell you, it's like, this is not a requirement, but this is typical stuff. What you see in the real world is that, you know how when we've been building these labs over the past couple lab assignments, and there's been like, I've had you guys create like an extra, like a contact CSS file, just for the contact page. And what did I call it? Home page CSS file. And I've had you put it into the include that you're using for all that top stuff, right? But the problem here is that what you're doing is you're installing a lot of stuff on every single web page, even though only some of the web pages are actually using it. So what we would normally do, which I'm actually not going to follow through, I'll just show you kind of where we usually go with this stuff, is we would create another, let's see what I do. Another variable here, like custom CSS. And in here, I would write just the custom CSS that needs to go on this page. So it'll kind of like, let's see, something like link, what is it, rel, style sheet, whoops, got to alternate the quotes, style sheet, and href, was it href or source? Href. CSS hero, or no, homepage dot CSS, and whoops, I did that with the, that'll be the death of me, those, getting the quotes right. And CSS, like that. I screwed something up, but whatever, I'm not going to do this for real. Let's see, come on, close that, and end of line. So again, this is PHP code creating a variable with a link statement, which is HTML, and then later what I would do is actually in my top part, .css, is that like if there was an area here where I've got all my link statements, blah, 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 I would actually do another PHP echo, and what do I call it? Custom CSS. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not going to require this. Actually, maybe I should require this. To optimize the CSS being used on all of your web pages. But no, let's just see if everyone can do just the stuff I demoed about the menu highlighter. If you can get the menu highlighter and the H1s and titles to be unique on all of your pages for your Project 3 file, I'll call that a win. Keep in mind, like I said, I'm going to publish all these demo files just so you have them kind of as a template. So when I ask you to do this stuff, you might go, oh yeah, that's how we did that stuff. And it should be a piece of cake. If it's not, well, that's what the labs are for. So any questions? Because like I said, all this stuff I'm trying out with you guys is new. I haven't really formalized this into more of an orderly type of presentation. So like I said, any questions? Does it seem okay? Okay, just, yeah, thanks for the head nod, or else you'd never get out of here. So thank you. Yeah, we're done for today. We'll do some more stuff on whatever it is Thursday when we get back here. Keep on plugging away and keep an eye out for Project 3 coming your way. Talk to you later.